In the run-up to our 100th episode, episode 98, Lego Star Wars, my Super Death Star. And when I say super, this baby is huge. Welcome, marketing chefs. I've got something truly special cooking in our Omni-Channel oven today. As we count down to 100, episode 98, and it's too big for me to hold here, it's the Super Death Star. Up next in the Marketing Kitchen. Welcome to the kitchen, the Marketing Kitchen. Hi, I'm Ron Vining, your host of Marketing Kitchen TV. Welcome to our countdown of the 100th episode of Marketing Kitchen TV. I'm dedicating the next 6 episodes, dropping over the next 3 days, so that's 2 episodes per day, to Lego Star Wars in honor of May the 4th. On May the 4th, 2020 will be our 100th episode. In the countdown to that, in these 6 episodes, I'm going to share with you my entire Lego Star Wars collection. Well, the collection that's here in Singapore anyhow, because the other half of my collection is back in the United States. I've got some very cool things to share. In our 95th episode, I'm going to share with you the dark side of the Force. That's basically all of the sets related to the Clone Wars, the Empire, as well as the First Order. In episode 96, I'm going to share with you the gray side of the Force. And in the gray side of the Force, those are things like bounty hunters, things that you might find on Tatooine or even in Cloud City. In episode 97, I want to share with you the light side of the Force. So those would be things like the Rebels, the Resistance, or the Republic. You can expect to see my UCS Millennium Falcon with a customized interior. In episode 98, I'm going to share with you my Super Death Star. It's 2 UCS Death Stars mashed into one with 5,000 additional bricks. It's 3 feet by almost 3 feet. Can't wait to share that with you. In episode 99, I'm going to share with you right here the Battle of Hoth game. This set was not released worldwide, so it's quite rare. We're going to play that here in the Marketing Kitchen in episode 99. In our 100th episode, which will air on May the 4th, I'm going to share with you my minifigure collection. In particular, I'm going to highlight all the troopers because on May the 4th, it's also the final episode of the Clone Wars. So I'm going to share with you my clone troopers, stormtroopers, First Order troopers, the template of them all, the prototype Boba Fett, Jango Fett, Boba Fett, the Mandalorian, you name it. I'm really excited. So those are the next 6 episodes coming up in Marketing Kitchen TV. Episode 98, Super Death Star. I will take you through the hidden spots where Lego can be found. When I designed my home, I was thinking, where would I put my Super Death Star? So I had the crazy idea to put it right under my workstation. Right here. I designed a special cabinet just for this Death Star. So I have it on casters so I can roll it right out and I can put it just about anywhere you'd want in the house, except for on my counter because it's too big. It's coming for you. It's moving in. Ready to fire a single reactor ignition. All right, no Death Star is complete without its turbo laser here. And I decided to try to replicate what we see in the film by creating this section here where the Death Star gunner monitors the laser before it goes out of the dish. The equatorial trench of my Super Death Star didn't always look this way. So I'll show you in some pictures where I used to have one of every Imperial trooper, officer, Sith, anyway. Basically the theme anyway was every Imperial or related figure between Solo: A Star Wars Story and Return of the Jedi. But then I ran out of space. So I also ran out of storage space in the house, so I began putting a bunch of junk in here. Or maybe not so much junk, but just maybe, anyway, they're Death Star related. For example, the turret from the 4 Plus X-Wing set. So decided to dump that in there. As this is falling apart on me, so I try to get it out of here. And also inside of here is the Darth Vader transformation, mainly because I didn't have any place to put it. However, I do have the original version in here. Darth Vader's transformation as part of my Sith Medical Center, right above Darth Vader's meditation chamber. So anyway, I just kind of dumped it into the trench. Let's see what other goodies we have dumped into the trench here. Some of them I've pushed down so they don't fall. One is the latest Death Star gun, or Death Star laser. I haven't rebuilt my Lego Death Star in about 3 years' time, but when I do, a lot of the things that I'm pulling out of this trench here are actually going to be built into the Death Star, similar to how I've integrated some of the other sets. Like right here are the dual guns. Actually, the battle pack just came with one of these turbo lasers, but I've actually installed 2 on this side and 2 on the other side from the Death Star gunner and Imperial Royal Guard battle pack. So at some point, I will be integrating this into the set. In fact, that just reminds me, I need to buy another one of these sets so that I have 2 of these lasers to integrate into there. So anyway, that's another piece of junk in the center there. Let's see what else we have. Got to take out all of this before I can give you the grand tour. Here's the Death Star Escape, and this is already in this Death Star playset, but at a different scale or level. So I'll be looking to find a way to integrate this into the model. I also have a plan to one of the major complaints, right, that people have had between the Death Star 2 UCS set, which is a covered model, as opposed to the first Death Star playset, and then the second version that they call the UCS Death Star. It's more like a master builder's set, I would say, similar to Hoth, as well as the Ewok Treehouse and the Betrayal at Cloud City. What I am intending to do is I've bought a number of panels, and in order to make this round, I've had some other techniques that I'm going to do, but when I reimagine this, and this will actually be version 3.0 when I do that, but when I reimagine this, a number of these areas will have hinged plates, so they'll be covered, so it would be more authentic, I guess if you will, to the real Death Star. Pulling out some more objects from the trench here so that I can give you the grand tour is the Comic-Con Detention Block Rescue, I believe was the name of this set. Anyway, it's quite fun. And of course there is a detention block in the current Death Star, but I'll look to integrate some of the features of this into there when I do. And the final set that I have, and pulling all of this out, I'm just trying to give you a scope anyway of how large the equatorial trench is on this Death Star. I'll be pulling out Palpatine's Arrest. And hopefully it doesn't break on me as I pull it out. But Palpatine's Arrest is one of my all-time favorite sets. And of course this was a fan, I believe back in the day, right, fans voted, and they voted for Home 1, and they also voted for Palpatine's Arrest. I'm not sure if they were Toys R Us exclusives, or anyway, that was before I was collecting Lego Star Wars. But this fit in there. Now somehow I want to integrate Palpatine's office, because if you've seen the designs of the Death Star, so if you just look up online designs of Death Star, you'll see that the Imperial Throne Room, where Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and the Emperor have their showdown, that sort of incomplete looking space, well, opposite of that is an office that looks very similar to this. So I would like to somehow be able to integrate that onto the second from the top level. And I'll show you why I want to put it there in a minute. All right, the equatorial trench is now empty. What I've done for the floor in here is, if you notice, this floor is black. All of the other floors, except for 2 of the other hangar bays. So all the hangar bays are black. The reason why the floor is black in here, and I actually used the tiles that you would find from collectible minifigures, is because I used to have all of my minifigures in here on display. And in fact, the original design here was for me to be able to insert the original shuttle, so the original Imperial shuttle model, so the one that came out just before the UCS one, that had the first stormtroopers with printed legs. I had originally done a mock that it would fit in the middle of there, so the trench was actually about 3 bricks taller. However, when I built all the rest of the floors, I didn't take into account this lip right here on the cabinet, and when I went to slide it in, it wouldn't fit. So I needed to remove 3 bricks. I removed bricks from 2 to 3 bricks from every level, and I still didn't have enough space. so I was unable to fit that in there. So my dream of having the shuttle to recreate the scene of when the Emperor arrives on the Death Star was incomplete, even though it's a fully operational battle station. Okay, anyhow, yeah, there we go. Where did I have this on here? Let me just pop this piece back in here and then we'll continue with the tour. All right, I popped my other shuttle back in, and if you notice for the hangar bay here, I've done a couple of things. I have 2 shuttles, and I also in the back, I have Darth Vader's TIE Fighter, which originally would be in the model would be about here on the original Death Star playset. And then I also converted one of the Darth Vader TIE Fighters into a normal TIE Fighter. And they hang out here in the back. Let me give you a tour of this side. And what we have here is we have the meeting room, or the conference room. And this was seen in both Rogue One. Well, actually, it wasn't seen in Rogue One. I would have liked for them to have visited that. This was seen in A New Hope, but I've included some of the figures from throughout the Star Wars trilogy that may have been there at the Death Star. Anyway, in between the events between Rogue One and A New Hope, before she was blown up. And as I mentioned to you over here, I have the 2 lasers from the battle pack. And over here I've got my Sith meditation chamber. Again, this is the original set. And then I've got 2 Bacta tanks that are here. On the opposite side, we have the control room for the Death Star itself. And I have Director Krennic over here. He's got his guards, we've got some Death Star gunners. What I've tried to do is I've tried to incorporate all of the panels that can be found across LEGO that were used for Star Wars. So you'll notice that there's panels from Star Destroyers here. This is the original transparent panel that shows the Death Star 2 with the force shield around it from the moon of Endor. This is the original panel from the original Death Star showing the destruction, first with Yavin, and then the potential of getting in the firing range, either for Alderaan or for Yavin. The secret Death Star plans found with R2-D2 and C-3PO in the escape pod set. So just trying to integrate some cool, rare features in there. As I mentioned before, the way I have designed the turbo laser, looks like the beam is coming out of the tunnel, so I'll just kind of turn that. I used forced perspective here to give the illusion that the tunnel is deeper than it actually is, with the laser from the kyber crystal going out. And then of course, taking nods from Rogue One, have some of the boxes here that were on the tank carriers, and they're filled with kyber crystals. I created a observation bay. This one is larger than the one found in the original Death Star playset. It has double the amount of windows, so the space is larger, and that actually overlooks the hangar bay where the Millennium Falcon is. And I actually have a Millennium Falcon inside of this Death Star, which I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to spin it around. We're going to keep looking at the, well, actually, let me spin here first, since I covered that side. Here is my mock of Darth Vader's transformation. Here's my mock of Darth Vader's meditation chamber. And I'm surprised we haven't received a LEGO set of this on its proper scale. Yes, there is one in the new Darth Vader's castle, which I was quite happy to see, but it's really scaled down compared to what we saw in Darth Vader's Super Star Destroyer in the films. So I tried to recreate one as best I could to the scale and scope of that we've seen in the film. And unfortunately it's non-functioning and it won't open close, but I think I've captured the essence of that look of it closing in on itself there. And the entire interior is white, both the ceiling and the base. I even have a hologram of the Emperor inside of there, which is pretty cool. And just tried to incorporate as much Star Wars feature sets as I could. Here's another hologram of the Emperor here, because as we saw like in The Empire Strikes Back when Darth Vader then kneeled. So I have that incorporated as well. I'm pretty proud of. I think some of the rooms I'm most excited about by the way they came out. Obviously I like this a lot, and I have one of these on the other side. I like the Sith meditation, the Sith Medical Center, and I really think this came out well. I spent a lot of time putting this particular aspect of the set together. All right, let's spin it around. Because of the weight, it's quite difficult to spin it. It's easy to move it front and back, but spinning is not so easy. All right, taking a look now at the other quarter. This is an area where I actually had a lot of fun incorporating one of every type of printed slope, from classic Lego space, just about any set that I could find. I have here a schematic from the Star Destroyer that came out a couple of years ago. And then of course here we have a hologram of the Emperor and the hologram of the Death Star that we've seen before. And then I just have weapons on each side, so we could call it a weapons room. I even have a dejarik table in here as well, just so in case the troopers want to take a break. And what you're starting to see on this side is the first part of the throne room. Because the Death Star Final Duel set that came out, I decided to integrate that into the Death Star. So if you see, here's one of the windows from that, and I've added a staircase, and here's the back window, and on the other side is the third. But I really wanted to recreate the throne room as accurately as I could within this Death Star. And I even have trenches around the elevator shaft that were similar to the one that Darth Vader picked up the Emperor and threw him down into. And if you'll notice right here, this is the entrance to the hangar bay, and I think you all recognize what's inside the hangar bay from the back. And of course, that is the Millennium Falcon. And I'm really happy the way this particular room came back out. Let me spin this around for you. As one of my Star Destroyers just fell. I have my Star Destroyer collection at the base of the Death Star here. As I spin this around, you'll see there's another laser turret on the back. In addition to that, you will see the rest of the throne room and the hangar that the Falcon is in. And speaking of the Falcon, I don't know if you've recognized the ceiling here, but the roof of the Death Star are the first Lego Millennium Falcon set to come out. I have used the dish, the 4 pieces for the dish of that, for the top of the Death Star. And I've actually even used the cockpit windows from the microfighters for the Falcon as well. And I put those as being sort of where losing my train of thought. So imagine the throne room here, right, being on the top of the Death Star to sort of represent that. And if you take a look at the hangar here, and with the Millennium Falcon in there, and then here's the observation windows that we saw in A New Hope as well. So I've doubled the bank of that. I've simulated here the elevator, I have the arrows on the floor. Tried to really recreate this as best as possible. And if you see behind the Falcon, I have the lighting that is in there. So we'll just take the Falcon out. This is one of my favorite models, both this and the Star Destroyer that were of these this mini build. I think they're really cool. But anyway, just take a look at the lighting for the use of stickers that I use in the hangar bay here. And of course, here is the door, quite famous for where Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader have their duel. Just put the Falcon back in here. One of my favorite, probably the most memorable scene, for most of us anyway, from A New Hope is just the scene of the Falcon being in this hangar. And then of course here on, as mentioned before, the set from the Final Duel. And all 3 of the windows are here. I've added a staircase on each side, and just tried, and I've got the staircase going down to the where the lift is at. Try to make that as accurate to the film as possible. On the bottom level here, actually back it up, just go back to the equatorial trench for a second. You will see that here's Darth Vader's TIE Fighter that came with the Death Star playset, similar to the one in the new Darth Vader's castle, but a little bit larger in scale. So this is the original one. It's not the one from the second version, which was deemed as a UCS. And then here I took the same model and I just made a quick modification to turn it into a normal TIE Fighter. But you'll see that the equatorial trench is surrounded by 4 lasers, similar to the ones that would have been attacking Luke when he was going into the equatorial trench to take out the Death Star. So there's 4 of those surrounding this middle section here. And this middle section is huge. Now, if you're wondering what I used to construct this section of the Death Star, so these 2 floors right here, they're actually Lego base plates. So they're the extra large gray plates that they sell. And if you're wondering how I managed to do that, what you do is you build on I built on the square, and I made the square octagonal. I made both pieces of the square octagonal, and obviously as you're making it octagonal, you're making it larger than the square itself. From there, I clipped onto both sides, because as you know, a base plate doesn't have a clicking function underneath it. So I built around it to make it larger. And I'll show you a close-up of that later. What I wanted to do to make this area unique with the hangar was to not have it have that same octagonal design as the rest of the build, just to give it a bit of character, to make it like a wide rectangular hangar bay. And I think I managed to nail that particular aspect. Just trying to give this a spin more and not hit anything as we go around. Just to show you the other side. And again, the other part of the throne room is here. The other bank of turbo lasers, the conference room from another angle, the control room, and of course here is the area for the gunners and for the laser, and the laser you can just spin around. And the turbo lasers that are on the back of the Death Star there. All right, that gives you a tour anyway of the from the top. So we've got floor 1, floor 2, floor 3, and floor 4. I'm going to lower the tripod and take you on the next 3 levels. All right, I'm really on my hands and knees here to show you this. Okay, these are so we did level 1, level 2, level 3, the equatorial trench being level 4. Now here's level 5, level 6, and level 7, and then planet level here. So, of course, I really loved Rogue One. I would say that is my best, my favorite of the Disney Star Wars films to date. I think Rogue One felt the most like the original trilogy to me. So I really wanted to recreate the Battle of Scarif. And this is as if like the Death Star is orbiting over there before it takes everybody out. So anyway, we've got Scarif here. I'll show you in some of the pictures. I'd actually recreated that mock there. But I've removed a number of those figures at the moment. And in fact, I'm going to remove Scarif from here, just as I cleared out the equatorial trench, so that you can get a better view of the bottom of the Death Star. All right, I do have 2 UCS plaques here. One of them is from the Death Star 2, and the other is a mock that I actually bought on eBay of the original Death Star, just so that I could represent both in the picture here. So I'll just remove those also. All right, why don't we actually start from the base up in this particular discussion here? Yeah, sound good? So these are the bottom plates of the original Millennium Falcon set that I had mentioned to you before. And I just decided that I would make the top and the bottom spherical, even though the rest of the Death Star isn't. Well, I guess let me address that right now. It's about 3.5 feet, but it's not 3.5 feet wide. And the reason why is because I couldn't have the cabinet be, actually the original design of the cabinet was going to be wider, but then it didn't work for the overall design of the house. And so it really had to be how the house looks first, not how the Lego cabinet would be. So when we modified the design of this in round 2, it ended up not being as wide as it is tall. And that is why the Death Star is not spherical. And I'm going to try to work on that within the framework that I have without reducing its height. So, all right, there's your story, and I'm sticking to it. All right, let's get a little bit closer in, and you can take a look at the second level, since there's not a lot of detail on the first, but the elevator shaft is still there, and I have done some detail work. On the second level here, it just is the similar to the original Death Star playset, where you've got the lift going into the hangar, and in this case, I have a bunch of TIE Fighter pilots that are there. This is pretty much just a duplicate of what was in the original Death Star playset. So I built a mirror image of it, and so there's a hangar on both sides. Except on that side, I used the same force perspective to create looking like it's going into the detention block. Because I had in my mind anyway that if you were to bring prisoners to the Death Star, you would probably land in a hangar that would take them directly to a detention block. You wouldn't want to take people through the entire battle station, right? That would make sense to me anyhow. I've actually, just for the sake of space, have filled this in with every polybag or microfighter TIE fighter that's come out within the sort of Solo to the Mandalorian range, right? Because within the scope of when Death Star 1 and Death Star 2 would have existed. So that's what you can find on those levels there. Again, just showing you how massive the space is inside of here for the equatorial trench. It's quite large. And I utilized the columns here. I really liked those pieces that are around. I do have more stickers for with the light rails on it, similar to you will see in other aspects of the Death Star. I just haven't had a chance. Again, I mentioned this is version 2.0. I really plan to deconstruct and reconstruct this, and then I'll add the stickers onto it there. How is this suspended? How are these 4 posts holding up all of this weight? I don't really know. I'm not sure that a Lego Master Builder, how they would feel about this, but I use Technic pieces, and this was sort of a throwback to the the AT-ATs, by the way. But I do have Technic pins in here on the bottom and on the top, but it's just really about the fact that they're thick and there's 4 of them. They wouldn't take a direct hit, so. And actually, I take that back. I accidentally knocked one of them out when I was taking the shuttle Tidarian out from the center, and it stood with 3. But I don't think that I think I was lucky. Let's just put it that way. All right, let's spin it around so you can see the other side. And here is my Star Destroyer collection. I will just sort of slide this out of the way. These are pretty much all of the Microfighter and Polybag, as well as Advent Calendar Star Destroyers that you could purchase. Back this up just a little bit, so you can see again the bottom level right here. Haven't really done much with that, but I have taken the light rails all the way up. And in fact, I decided to customize the tractor beam that Obi-Wan Kenobi disables in A New Hope. And what I did I decided to modify this from the original Death Star playset, suspending it out, because obviously Obi-Wan was suspended on this particular perch right here. So I created just a sort of an L beam here into this space, and then just have the tractor beam suspended. So, and I used some stickers from Star Destroyer, as well as the flux capacitor. So actually Obi-Wan is pulling down on the flux capacitor here from the Back to the Future set there. But anyway, I think that was a pretty good representation anyway of the tractor beam. Trash compactor is untouched, and I decided to leave this area untouched as well, just because I thought Lego did a good job with it. The tension block I've modified somewhat, because as I mentioned, the detention block actually opens up on the other side as well. But I've kept the force perspective stickers there because I thought they did an excellent job on that. I didn't want to change things just for the sake of changing them. I thought if the Lego builders did a good job with it, I left it alone unless it was necessary to modify it for my build. And in here, this is a larger version of the sort of the lead up to the observation tower, which goes to the hangar. This is now my TIE Fighter hangar. It's not the hangar where the Falcon would be. And I just put a sort of an armory, or weapons rack in there. And just spin this around, just to show off the final corner here. And I thought that, again, this is the Death Star Escape set, the same as the Death Star Escape, the one that I mentioned right here, yeah. So somehow I'll be incorporating some of the aspects there. Again, I thought Lego did a good job with this. The only thing I've done is I've increased the height by about 5 bricks, so it just gives it a little bit more scope or depth. But what I've done is throughout the build, I've taken the light rail, and you'll find that the light rail goes throughout the build, again stopping in the center section until I add the stickers there. But I've really added a lot of custom touches, I think, to it by putting Imperial logos throughout the build, as well as there in the inside, putting some lighting in there. It took a while to do, and again, this is version, version 1, right, is the original build, and so version 2 would have been my first attempt at it when I lived at a place I was renting, and then I decided to buy a second UCS Death Star and combine and then make a larger one. So that was probably version 2.0 when I modified that. And then I packed it up, and then when I moved here and I deconstructed it, I really expanded it. So that was really version 3.0, I guess. So 4.0 will be putting panels all around it, and just trying to make it a little bit more detailed, a bit more spherical, and to include some of those other sets that I just showed you to make it more authentic. And since I'm not a kid, yeah, I don't play with this. So the only enjoyment that I can get out of it, out of these play sets, is to break them down and mod them up and just try to authenticate it to the film. Well, I hope you enjoyed that tour. I'll give you a photo tour of it next. So this was the video tour. I'll give you a photo tour to really highlight some of the rooms that weren't captured by spinning around in the video. Come join me on a photo tour of the Death Star. For this May the 4th, there's a premium with purchase that I'll have to get. I don't have this Death Star, I do have the stickers for it. However, I have this Death Star, and here's what happened when I built it the first time. And then I bought a second one, and here's what happened. But then I wasn't satisfied, so I started making a list. And I started buying a lot of bricks. And I picked up 2 of these base plates, and if you wonder what did I do with those, well, I made 2 sections like this, and this is what they looked like. And this is how you actually attach bricks to both sides of a base station, by using plates on the top and the bottom. And this is how you secure it. It was a lot of trial and error at first. Now my Death Star also incorporates this set. I love this set. And there it is inside the latest version of my Death Star. Now, I love Palpatines Arrest, but I haven't yet figured out how to integrate this on the opposite side. And this is a great Death Star playset, as well as this, and this. And I mentioned I need to pick up a second one of those. And then not so good, but it's still Death Star. And these 4 sets have yet to be incorporated into my build because they've come out more recently. I believe the last modifications I made to Death Star 3.0 were 2 years ago. But I've been accumulating a bunch of new bricks and plan to go for another run. This was actually my first Death Star. And you can see it here I had 2 of the buildable planets. I've bought 4 of these, and they are on 2 sides of the Death Star on the top. I love this Scarif set, and this sits at the base of my Super Death Star, recreating this famous scene from Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I really love that. I don't have this set, but I do have this one. Really doesn't have anything to do with the Death Star, and I've yet to buy this soon. Darth Vader's castle was fantastic in Rogue One, and I really like that set. I would have loved to have seen it in The Rise of Skywalker. And you notice they have a Bacta tank, and they also have Darth Vader's meditation chamber, of which I incorporated in my own Death Star. Now these Mustafar sets I think are great, and they're soon to be added to the Death Star pedestal, as well as this transformation kit when I modify the Death Star for the next round. I currently have this in the Death Star in my Sith Medical Center, which is depicted right here. Some more Mustafar sets. I would really love to see, since I like the Death Star playset so much, a Starkiller base, or even perhaps an expanded version of the throne room. Now, this classic Millennium Falcon, which I picked up on eBay, and all the parts were included here, and I built it. Well, I actually took the roof of that, and I incorporated it to the top of my Death Star, as well as in the base. Now, this is the first version of the Death Star. This is the actual one you could purchase in the store. And I first made this back in about 2012. So I'll just take you through the construction of Death Star 1.0 as designed by the Lego Master Builders. And this is a great set. It was my first adult Lego set. So my first childhood set came when I was about 3 years old, and I continued collecting Lego up until about age 13 or 14. And then I didn't buy any more Lego until 1999 when the Phantom Menace came out. And I picked up the duel between, here's the Death Star completed. And here is the Death Star as I began to modify it. I noticed I was making each floor just a little bit taller. So that wasn't good enough for me. So I bought a second Death Star. And then of course I started building those levels I showed you earlier. And this will just take you through the mock as I would begin to come up with a new layout. So this would be Death Star 2.0 as I was beginning to play with it. I didn't actually draw any designs up. I really just started building it in my head. The only time I would sort of make a list would be for the parts. So here is it as it was slowly being constructed. And again, just sort of all off the top of my head, just trying to figure out how I thought how it should go together. My ultimate goal was to be able to house the Imperial shuttle in the equatorial trench. I wanted to expand that the hangar bay, so I made a double hangar bay with 2 of the doors there initially, and pretty much kept that intact except for raising the roof and adding some windows. Thought about that more as an armory, wanted to expand that a bit, and obviously increase the throne room. And every room I was just trying to plus. I didn't want to go overboard. I loved the transformation center that I had put together. That was the first round of it. And this was the first round at the Sith Medical Center. Well, I managed to fit the shuttle inside, and I ran out of bricks. So I was unable to keep the spear shape, and I was only using 1 base plate at the time, as you notice. But that would soon change. So, but anyway, just take a look at my Death Star version 2.0. It had a lot of work to be desired. It was a good first start, I thought. I liked a lot of the elements that I had done for the different rooms, especially like the Darth Vader's Transformation Center, the Sith Medical Center, the Throne Room. So those were concepts that I liked, but I knew I needed to do something different, something more. But I definitely needed more bricks in order to accomplish that. And I had finished this project just as I was about to move out of an apartment that I was renting here in Singapore. So it was sort of a rush to complete it, only to then break it down, box it up, and keep it in storage for a couple of years. So yes, literally. So in 2012, I first built it, and I probably modded this in 2013. And then I had to take it apart. I actually broke it up into 2 sections. I put a ton of bubble wrap around it, and I kept it in storage for 2 solid years. And during that time, I was thinking about what would I do next? What would version 3.0 look like? When I bought and renovated my condo, I thought about a special place that I would store / display it. And that's this cabinet that I've shown you in videos before. And there it is, broken up into 2 parts. One half of it is upside down. And then here's a ton of bricks that I had acquired thinking about what version 3.0 would look like. And I began constructing the top base plate. As I mentioned, I had already had 1 base plate from version 2.0. So here's what the second, or the higher level base plate, would look like. My strategy for this level was to have a double size hangar to accommodate the Falcon, as well as a new Darth Vader's meditation chamber. and also how I would construct where the laser was going to be. So I really took to designing this section first, and as you can see, this is what we ended up with. And I had her in 2 sections, and I really modded out all of the interior details while I kept it in these 2 sections, because it really couldn't work on it together, so it needed to be apart. So this is what version 3.0 looked like at first. This was before she was assembled. I kept modding and modding and modding, and you see there is the Death Star final dual set incorporated. I pretty much nailed what the hangar would look like. This was important. This is the money shot for me. And then also use forced perspective about how the laser would come out before it hit the gun turret, the gun dish rather. And here's Darth Vader's meditation chamber. This is the double hangar bay on the other side, on a lower deck, again using that same forced perspective for the detention block. I pretty much extended the height of the trench there for the Death Star escape, as well as the tractor beam for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Here is the completed model, populated with approximately 150 minifigures. It's the ultimate display set. And there's the top of the sphere, utilizing the Millennium Falcon base plates, or, well, not sure what you would call those, but they're curved plates. The base has the same. And there's the equatorial trench filled with minifigures, the double hangar filled with TIE fighters, our heroes. Once completed, I put the Death Star in the cabinet that she was designed for. Unfortunately, it doesn't allow me to make a full sphere, but the height is right. When Rogue One came out, I decided to recreate the Battle of Scarif with that set at the base. And there is Director Krennic with this brick this tile that I bought that has the Death Star set on it. Thought that was appropriate. Here she is with 2 minifigures in the equatorial trench, like she was packed. That's every figure at that time, from Solo, A Star Wars Story, through to the end of Return of the Jedi. Now she's filled with junk, awaiting the next mod or renovation of the set. Here's a few money shots, just showing you the set in its prime, with the junk removed out of there. I'm not sure when I shot these. All right, some people prefer to see video versus the still shots, so I've included a few minutes of video here for you before we close out this video, just for those interested in perhaps recreating some of the rooms themselves or whatever, just a final video tour, if you will. She stands about 3.5 feet tall. So I'm figuring the cabinet must be about 2.5 feet wide, a foot off from what I needed. When I had originally designed the cabinet space, it would have accommodated a full sphere, but when the cabinet was constructed, it just didn't go with the flow that I was looking for the house. So I figured, as I mentioned before, house first, Lego second, which most people probably think he doesn't really believe that. It's always Lego first for him. And you have to roll this out carefully. The wheels I think I need to put some oil on them so they're not as slick as they were before. But if you notice, there's a lot of, as you're going through the video tour here, please just take note of all of the stickers and the detail that I have put in. The stickers are from just about every Imperial or First Order, and in some cases Republic set. and I usually buy these extra sticker sheets off of eBay. And in terms of slopes, again, I typically either go to Bricklink or to eBay to pick up the printed slopes or printed parts that can be found. But I've really just tried to create as much detail as possible, even including a number of the sets from the Advent calendar. You've probably seen some of them floating around, whether they be shuttles or whether they be TIE fighters. I've been using the Death Star as just a place to store everything. I really love the way that came out. I like the way this room came out as well too. It needs a larger space, but I think it's a lot of fun. And the way Death Star Duel was integrated, I think it worked out quite well. So I guess the rooms that I'm most proud of would be the Darth Vader's meditation chamber, obviously the hangar bay where the Falcon is at, and the Sith Medical Center, and just the incorporation of the Death Star final duel. Each of the final pass-throughs here on video are from a different angle, just so that you can see all four sides of the Super Death Star. Now that she's out of the cabinet, just can get a little bit more light on the Battle of Scarif there. That bottom level that gets neglected, see the plates there, the rounded plates, those are the bottom of the Millennium Falcon. Some Phantom Menace from the Sith Infiltrator, or the decorative things on the wall. Here I have a number of Darth Vaders in different states of transformation. There's some stickers from the Star Destroyer. Again, all of those base plates, some of them from the Falcon. See the force perspective that I tried to use there for the Death Star gun, where the laser comes out. And then that old transparent window over there in the corner is from the original B-Wing set, system set. You know, I don't have a B-Wing yet. I've been waiting for LEGO to release another B-Wing. They've released so many X-Wings and A-Wings and even Y-Wings, but we've yet to see a new B-Wing. And I usually bemoan when LEGO re-releases the same set over and over again, but we haven't seen a B-Wing in a while. There's my ATST room with some speeder bikes. It's really trying to jam everything in to the set here. All right, here's from the back side, or opposite from where the gun is at, and just taking a look at our heroes, looking at the TIE fighter that came with the set and the one that I modified from the second. I really like the trash compactor in the new version of the Death Star playset, the one that they named being a UCS. There's that Star Destroyer collection. I like the way they had the trash compactor monster, his eye come out from underneath. But I had built this prior to that set coming out with that great idea, but maybe incorporate that in a new version. I really like the way the transporter beam ledge came out. I think that is a better depiction of than what we have in what LEGO did in both versions of the set. And just expanded the ceiling in the detention room. I think the windows were a good touch there at the top. This is my armory. I do have a moving door in here, and I don't know what I'm trying to do. When I filmed it at the time, I think I was trying to show you how the door operates. But anyway, I have an armory there. In the back of the wall, you'll take a look at it, there's a bunch of guns and some thermal detonators. I'm really excited about version 4.0, and Again, I just sort of map it out in my head, so I'm not exactly sure what it's going to turn up like or what I'm going to change. But I'm certainly I'm going to modify the throne room a bit more. You see, I've added a different version, some more stickers in there. Those are actually from the Star Destroyer from The Force Awakens. So the ones there, the little light beams on each side of the lift that was there. But that could go with a little extra renovation there. Some of the fun things that I like about the set are the fact that I wish it were a complete sphere, but I also like how some of the layers or the levels are not, and they don't try to be. Like I didn't complete the third window there connecting to the top because it wasn't necessary. And then, of course, the back is all open so that you have an unobstructed view of the hangar. See, there's no middle support there because the weight is being held on the two sides. So please tell me in the comments section below what rooms you like the most, what rooms you dislike the most. I'd really be curious of what your feedback is, and I would love for some suggestions about some changes perhaps that you'd like to see in some future iterations of this set. One of the great things about Lego is once you create a mock, then there's always room for improvement, especially as new bricks come out, some new building techniques. So what are your thoughts on this? What would you do differently? There's actually, you see the one of the displays in there is from one of the Simpsons, the X-ray. Thought that was a fun touch to incorporate. There's some of the ships from Advent Calendar, from Rogue One. It's a shame that Lego bricks change color. I don't know if you've noticed as we've been going through the walkthrough, but the gray bricks are quite inconsistent about how they have tarnished and or I guess discolored, I guess is the better word. But what's so bizarre is that bricks from the same set have actually some have retained their proper color and others have changed quite a bit, and I don't understand why. Is it Lego manufacturing them in different plants? So so bricks coming, say, from Ukraine, are they of a different quality than those coming from China? So what is the reason, Lego? And again, I don't keep my Lego out, so it's not exposed to heavy dust, it's not exposed to UV light, but yet they're changing. And my home doesn't get overly hot, nor does it get overly cool. Now, granted, I am in Singapore and it's quite humid here, but I'm pretty much keeping it pristine and cleaning it off, but yet the bricks continue to change. So it would be really nice if Lego would come out with a definitive answer in terms of why this happens. And beyond, they've said that it's because of making them fire resistant, but that I don't believe that, because two bricks of the same brick in the same set, one changes color and one does not. So you mean to tell me that only certain ones change? I don't know. But anyway, I've tried to incorporate, as I mentioned, there's another one of the screens from the original B-Wing fighter. There's from the original hyperdrive, those slopes there. Those stickers are from the Star Destroyer. I decided that Admiral Thrawn would join in on the discussion there. As we do a couple of final rotations. I don't know, I think it came out well. Again, I haven't done anything with it other than remove the majority of the minifigures to put them in the cases. So you're watching episode 98 now. Episode 99 will feature the Battle of Hoth Lego game that was not widely released around the globe, so I think it'll be fun to highlight that for a lot of people who will be seeing it for the first time. And our episode 100, however, which will be launching on May the 4th, I will be showcasing all of the minifigures. So all of the minifigures that used to be in the Death Star here, as well as all of my Rebels, all of them, over 1,000 plus minifigures for Lego Star Wars. I'll show you how I display them in various storage cases, or I call them story boxes, if you will, and that will be in episode 100, just showing you each of those. In future episodes on Marketing Kitchen TV, I'm going to take you through my classic Lego sets. Those are the ones from the 70s, the ones that my grandparents bought me and my mom, as well as more recent sets featuring the collectible Disney minifigures, Wizard of Oz, and some from Lego Ideas. All right, here's the final tour. I've been editing this baby and all of these episodes for the past 3 days now. Again, Rogue One is one of my favorite Star Wars movies, so it's a tribute to that, and to Nigel Sumner, who is a friend of mine who works for Lucasfilm, who worked on that film, as well as Livia Tang, who worked on The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. Nigel also worked on Solo and Rise of Skywalker too. Anyway, these final shots of the fully populated Death Star, taken today, just before the final edits, are for you. So I really want to thank all of the creators at Lucasfilm, especially George Lucas, for bringing the Star Wars to us. And so we as fans, of course, celebrate May the 4th, and I mean, for however you want to celebrate the holiday, I just want to take a moment to really just say thank you to George Lucas, the creators over the years, Rick McCallum, Kathleen Kennedy, as well as Dave Filoni with his brilliant work on the Clone Wars, and Jon Favreau with The Mandalorian, and for everyone else involved in the saga, and for what will come next. I'm really looking forward to what Kevin Feige has in store for us as well. So, under the Bob Iger era of Star Wars, I say, may the Force be with you, always. We'll close the door on this episode number 98. Thank you very much for allowing me to share with you my almost 10-year project of working on the original Death Star playset, which was version 1, to our version 2.0. You're watching 3.0 now. I'll see you again when I make version 4.0. Closing the door on what is the longest of our 6 chapters. Back to the kitchen. Once again, may the 4th be with you. I hope you've enjoyed our countdown to Star Wars Day, as well as our countdown to the 100th episode of Marketing Kitchen TV. I hope you have enjoyed or are enjoying these 6 episodes that we're airing, showing off my Lego Star Wars collection here in Singapore. One day, I hope to be able to unite the US collection and the Singapore collection in one location. So where that'll be, I'm not sure. Hopefully it'll be close to a Disney theme park somewhere on the globe. All right, that's it for today. I appreciate it if you would give us a like, if you'd subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and most of all, please offer a comment below. I would love to hear what content you would like to see on Marketing Kitchen TV in the weeks, months, years to come. If there's a specific set or topic or whatever it is that you'd like me to highlight, you let me know and I'll work on that for you. All right. The galaxy, the universe, our own planet can be a bit challenging at times. So may the Force be with you and keep safe out there. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, there's always fresh content simmering on our storytelling stovetop. So whatever happens in this kitchen shouldn't stay in this marketing kitchen. I'm Ron Vining, your host, reminding you to invite your family and friends to the next episode of Marketing Kitchen TV.